Hey guys, it's March 25th and I'm Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop and I have a fun live stream for you today. What we're going to focus on today is just all the sew-alongs that I've been doing for 2022, and we're going to just talk in detail about each sew-along, all the details on it, how far I've gone, and how I'm planning each of them and keeping them all organized. We will have a big giveaway at the end, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. And then what I'm going to do today is, if the questions come in during the segment about that sew along, because there's going to be eight of them, 9 quilts, 1 cube, but 8 sew along. So if the question comes in about that quilt along during me talking about it, I will answer. If it comes in after, then I'm going to hold it and then answer it at the end so I don't confuse anybody. There's so many details of what I'm going to be doing today that I hope I keep it organized. I hope I don't confuse anybody. A lot of these sew-alongs that I'm going to be showing you are items that are free patterns or free resources, and they're things that you can do with your scraps. And some of them I've changed a little bit just to make it more of my style. So we'll just jump right in. So the first item I'm going to talk about is Moda Blockheads 4. So I've made the last 2 Moda Blockheads, and this year the blockhead is going to last for 28 weeks. It started 2 days ago, and it's going to end September 28th. Moda is going to have 28 designer blocks and 8 bonus blocks for a total of 36 blocks. This is a completely free quilt along. So you're going to be able to find the pattern on Moda's blog. You're also going to be able to find it on their Facebook group. And each block includes 2 shading color options if you want more options. So it's got 2 shading options just to kind of follow to help you out. The designer blocks are going to be released every Wednesday at 8 a.m., again, on Moda's blog or their Facebook group. The bonus blocks will be shared on Fridays every 3 or 4 weeks. And each block, when you're looking at the pattern and you download it, you can make it either in a 9-inch finished block or a 4.5-inch finished block. Moda released yardage information on like kind of estimated fabric requirements, and you can find that on their blog post. They have several finishing or setting options that are going to be coming. A few designers have them in the works. They have released one. I did want to let you know that I at Fat Quarter Shop, well actually Jocelyn at Fat Quarter Shop, designed a setting that we're going to be offering, of course, completely free. We're writing the pattern now and we're going to release it in May. I am going to kind of show you what it is though, so that you can see kind of what I'm doing. So there it is, right there. So I'm going to be doing, and you can see it right here, I'm going to make 9 large blocks, so you can see 3, 3, and 3. And then 27 small blocks, which are the 4.5-inch blocks. And then where you see the shaded blocks, those are accent fabrics. And that's just going to be a plain square. Now, I will let you know that there is at least one applique block that I know of. So on that one, I will have to make a replacement. But I'll make a replacement where if you don't want to do applique, you can do what I'm doing. That will be later in the event. So let's talk now about what I'm doing and my first block. So I'm going to use the Stitched Collection. Actually, I have it upside down. All my letters go the same way. So I'm going to be using the Stitched Collection by Fig Tree. It's available in April, and this is block 1. So when you look at our setting, this block is going to go right here. And each of these, the way you can look at the way we've done this is that's going to be one block. So I'm going to do the harder blocks in 9-inch and I'm going to pick a 9. I'm going to do the easier blocks in the 4.5. And I'm going to show you my accent fabric. I just have to find it real quick. This right here is going to be my accent fabric. So I'm going to, when the yardage comes in, cut some squares, and those are going to be my accent throughout. So talk a little bit more about that. So this is free. I hope all of you join me. And the first block is called Square Wheel. It's by Lynn of Kansas Troubles Quilters. And I'm going to have a mix of all the blocks. I am going to be sewing all 36 blocks. And when I made this, I used our square and a square paper to make this, which is ISC-779. And I did make all of the stitch to go one direction. I'm going to show you the fabric. And when I show you the fabric, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I'm going to do the backgrounds. So when I start a fabric, or when I start a project, what I do is I grab all my fabric. And I'm going to show you how I have mine organized right now. And, you know, sometimes it'll stay this organized, sometimes it won't. And the reason I'm using stitched is I haven't been able to use it yet. So this is kind of how I have everything. So what I started with on this, and our layout will be a PDF and it will be completely free. It's just not going to be available until May because we literally came up with it last week. And since we've shown you on live stream, you can kind of figure out where to start. But what I'm starting with here is I have a layer cake that we used for photography. And then when Moda sends the cap sets, I cut them off and use them. So this is a combination of layer cakes that I've cut a little piece off and cap sets. I use every bit of it. And this collection has a lot of colors, so I'm kind of keeping them just rolled up together. And so you can see I've got my layer cake kind of hidden in here, and then my bigger pieces on the outside. And this just makes it a little bit easy because there's so many fabrics. So we've got yellow, red, brown, blue backgrounds. This yellow's in the wrong spot. But I have very little greens. And the reason why is on the cap sets, I used all those greens for branching out, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. So I only have 4 greens left. So I'll have to purchase more when more comes in. Now, as far as backgrounds and accent, what I'm going to be doing is this, of course, will be my accent. And the reason I picked this one is because it's so cute. It's not too strong. It's not going to take away from the other blocks. And it's going to pull in all the colors. But this collection has a lot of backgrounds. So, for example, this could be a background in a block. This could be a background. This is the one I already used. This could be a background. So my plan is so that it'll kind of look planned scrappy. It won't be scrappy though at all. My bigger blocks that are the 9-inch blocks, I'm going to use the plain background. My smaller blocks, I'm going to try to work in some other backgrounds, and I'm going to try to also work in this, like some of the busier prints, which are harder for me to work in. And the way that I'm going to do that is when I start a project, I print a little sheet from our images, and I want to be able to use all the fabrics at least once. So I'm going to sew block by block. So in block 1, I use this fabric, so I put a little 1 for block 1. I use this fabric, so I put a little block 1. This one, block 1. And then this one. And then when I make block 2, I'll put a little note. And then as I get like maybe past block 6 or 7, then I'll have to start forcing myself to use the ones that I haven't already used. So that's kind of how I plan that one. The back of my block right here, I did press open, except right here I kind of forgot and kind of messed that one up. And Michelle's asking, how did you decide which ones to do in which size, especially not knowing which blocks are ahead? Okay, so I have seen the blocks ahead of time, but I made the big one just because it's the first one, and I want to start and I want to be able to make that little block. Like I want to be able to make this right here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the hard. If it's a block that is super hard, it's automatically going to be a 9-inch. And if there's an applique, then I'm going to somehow replace it. Now, the background on this is 20434-22, and I haven't finished filling this out. But as I add backgrounds, I'll probably put it in my little background section. This collection isn't out yet. It comes out in April. It's actually supposed to ship in a couple of weeks. And you will see that I have some bigger pieces in here. And these bigger pieces are left over. I made a table runner for something Pat SLOAN has coming up, and these were my leftovers. So I'll keep these big pieces and maybe they get incorporated in the back of the quilt. And then the way I print the sheet, it's we have all the images here saved. You could save them to a folder. Like you could create a folder on your website. You could go to Moda's website, look up Stitched, and then save all the images. If you click all the images at one time and hit print, when you hit print, there will be an option on the right side that says, it'll say like color cards or something. It'll have a bunch of things and you can select it. So you just save the images from Moda site and do that. And someone, let's see, Teresa's asking about scant 1/4 inch. Oh, sorry, I hit the light. So sorry. So what a scant 1/4 inch means is, sorry, there's a lot of noise going on today. I'm so sorry. There's a lot of people outside racing their cars or something. So we're going to zoom in a little bit. And this is the 1/4 inch right there. So scant 1/4 inch means that when you sew, you go a little bit the other way, I think. You sew less than a 1/4 inch, a little bit over here. And that makes it flatter. I have never sewn with a scant 1/4 inch. I don't know why. I just can't get it to work. It kind of messes me up. But if you press open, you're less likely to need to do a scant 1/4 inch because your block automatically gets flatter. So Robin asks, is a layer cake with background and accent fabric enough to make all the blocks, or do we need a fat 1/4 bundle with accent fabric? So I'm not sure. Basically what I do is I just start with what I have. And what I will do is I'm going to purchase some backgrounds when it comes in. I obviously have to purchase accent, inner border, outer border, and backing. But as far as the blocks, I will try to get all of the blocks out of all of that fabric you just saw and order as we need. And someone is asking if you should buy a 1/2 yard bundle of stitched. If you buy a 1/2 yard bundle, you should have plenty to make all the blocks, and then have a ton left over for the back. And I am going to be showing you today a lot of pieced backing so that you can see how when you have leftover fabrics you can use them. So this is Moda Blockheads 4, completely free pattern. All the information is on Moda's website. It started this week. It ends in September, and every time we have a live stream where I show my updated blocks, you'll get to see them. And then we will also be showing them weekly on our social media, so make sure to follow Fat Quarter Shop on Facebook, Instagram, and Kimberly Stitch Squad group and Facebook, so that if you want to see them that week before the video, they will be there. So that's Moda Blockheads. Now we're going to move to my favorite sew along of the year, and I'm almost done with it, but I do have a plan. So 2022 Brick House was designed by Jocelyn, and it's a completely free pattern at Fat Quarter Shop, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and I'm going to show my blocks. So this is a free pattern you can download only at Fat Quarter Shop. So I have finished all 16 blocks, and you need 16 blocks right here. So I'm going to show you mine. This is The Flower Farm by Ann Sutton, and the only reason I know is I'm reading off of here. So I'm going to show the blocks first. This is Country Rose by Layla Boutique. Emma by Sherry and Chelsea. Buttercup and Slate, Corey Yoder. Flea Market, Lori Holt. Joyful Joyful by Stacy Itsu. Christmas Stitched by Fig Tree. Slow Stroll by Fancy House. Nantucket Summer by Camille. Cookbook by Lori Holt. One Fine Day by Bonnie and Camille. Beautiful Day, Corey Yoder. Flower Pot, Layla Boutique. Sincerely Yours, Sherry and Chelsea. Merry Little Christmas, Bonnie and Camille. And Stitched, which you just saw, by Fig Tree. So there's all 16, and I'm going to show you one thing just by looking at this. Now, you will notice I did say several designers' names a few times, like I said Lori's name, Camille, Fig Tree, because I use those fabrics a lot. But I just want to show you, I mean, I did add some other designers in there, like Layla Boutique's in there a couple times. So it's going to all look good together. The only one that I think sticks out is this one. But I think in the end it will be okay. What I'm going to do though is I'm not going to, my son will. He loves to earn chore money, but he doesn't really like to do real chores. So he doesn't really like to do vacuuming or anything, but he will help me in my sewing room for hours and not complain. So that works for me. But what I will do is he will lay out all the blocks and I will let him pick whatever he wants. And when he lays those out, he's going to lay it out with the cornerstones. And these cornerstones are just 2.5-inch squares that I cut. And these fabrics are nowhere in the block. So these were fabrics that didn't make the cut to make it in the quilt block for whatever reason. So he's going to actually lay out all 16 blocks, and he's going to lay out the cornerstones, and he actually will take his time and he will lay them out, and I will ask him, okay, step back, look at it, make sure the colors, and he'll move it around. And once he comes up with a layout that he likes, I'll start sewing them together. And when I sew them together, I'm going to sew them together with all of my finishing. So when I finished my block, what I did was from my favorite background, which is 20708-36, and Fat Quarter Shop just gets that reprinted with Moda, so we're probably the only store that has it. I went ahead and cut all of my sashing. So some of the sashing is shorter, for the top, and then some of the sashing is longer for the bottom because the block is actually a rectangle. And then this is my outer border that I cut length of fabric. So he will actually lay all of this out for me, and then I will decide if I want to move anything. But it's really fun to just cut all this so that when you go to assemble, you're just ready to go because you've got everything already cut. Now this one, I have everything cut, and then the only thing I will look at is, does this stick out? Now if this sticks out too much, I won't throw it away or anything. I would either put it into a pillow and give it as a gift or something like that, and then just add another block. And this pattern is our scrappy quilt for 2022. And I finished it early because it's March. Hello, it's supposed to last till the end of the year. But what I'm going to do is, there is a new quilt coming out in Lori's brand new book, Scrappiness is Happiness. And I'm gonna start using that for the end of the year so that the rest of my scraps get put into a different quilt. So I'm gonna move these blocks now that I've made a big old mess. And not only did I finish the blocks and the finishing, I also did the backing. So now here, what I decided to do was, I did it this weekend. And I brought all this on design board, so I hardly have any left at home. So what I did for my backing is, we did a members only video on making the brick house into a smaller piece. And what I did is I took that home, sewed in a Sweetwater label, and this just says Kimberly Jolly Handmade. There is a 12-inch of this on the front. I used my same background that I used on the front of the quilt, 20708-36, and I added the background just to make it bigger because I needed it to be big. Then I added, and this is a cookbook right here. This is cookbook, this is Moda. And then what I wanted to do was, I felt like if I put the fabric that I'm going to use on the backing right on the side, that the house would not stand out. So I cut some of this, and what I do is I just write the size, and then I figure out what size I need my backing to be. So my quilt top is 63 by 67. So that means my backing needs to be 73 by 77. So I just kind of do the math and just cut the pieces, and the top piece is smaller than the bottom, and I'm going to show you that. I'm going to hold it up in a second so you can see it. Now the binding I pulled from my stash. This is little snippets. It's probably 3 or 4 years old, but I've always wanted to use this fabric, and I think it goes well with this. I think it looks great. But I'm going to show you how it looks unfolded. So the top is skinnier than the bottom. And then when I give this to Gina, I will re-iron this and fold it really nice so that when my quilter gets it, you don't ever want to give your quilter something that is wrinkled because you don't want them to have to stop and iron. So it's pretty wrinkly, but we'll iron it before I send it to her. And I think it's going to look great. It's got all the combinations. I did want to give a huge thank you to one of our subscribers on YouTube. I get the monthly Sweetwater labels. Now, they don't pay me to say this. I buy them with my own money. I love them. This is actually what came in, I think, this week. They come in this little bag, and you get usually 1 or 2 a month. So it has a stickiness on the back, And so I kept like sewing it on top of fabric, then sewing around it. And one of you guys said, hey, did you know you can peel that off? I had no idea. Or if I knew, I forgot, because what I can do now is, it's kind of hard to do, but it does work because I did it on this quilt, which is what made me think of it, is you just peel this off. I've got it, I just have to get a grip of it. Just peel this off. No more sticky, and now I can just cut it and sew it in, which is what I did here, which saves me, gosh, probably 10 minutes on a quilt. So to the person who told me that, that is amazing. Thank you so much, because it saved me time on this quilt, and I do love the ones I got this month. So I'm going to answer any questions you have now on Brick House. Margaret says, you have so many quilts. How many do you have going at one time? Okay, well, if we look in my book, this year I've started 19. 9 are finished, so I have 10 ongoing right now. So, and that's kind of how I keep it. Do I usually wait until the quilt is finished before choosing the background? No, I usually pick the background. That's probably the first thing that I pick. I'll pick the collection, I'll pick the background, and then I'll go from there. If you need to pick accent or something like that, I'll pick that. The binding and the backing, I don't usually order up front unless I'm like set on it and like love it and know this is what I'm using. I usually wait until I'm further along, and I usually use piece backings. So I usually kind of start in the center, order, like this one I worked on this weekend, but I didn't have this fabric right here. I just finished the strip, and I ordered this, and then I went home and starched it and then put it together. So the backing and binding is kind of what I do last. The collection of Brick House that I might take out is Slow Stroll by Fancy That House. Sorry. And that I did a quilt out of that, so I wonder if it's back from Gina yet. We'll show it. It's really pretty. It's something totally outside the box that I did, and it's going to be a quilt kit. So we will be showing you that full quilt. You'll love it. Can I write on the Sweetwater labels? Well, when you look at the label, it already is printed with your name. So I don't know if you could write on them. I've never tried. That's kind of why I buy the labels, so I don't have to write. So I'm not sure. I'm sure you could email Sweetwater. Their website is like sweetwater.co or something like that. Just if you type Sweetwater quilt labels, you'll find them and you can ask them. When you press seams open, can you still stitch in the ditch? So you're not supposed to, if you press a seam open, your quilter, when they quilt it, you're not supposed to stitch in the ditch because it might poke your seams open. And I send all my quilts to Gina of Long Arm Quilting, and she doesn't do stitch in the ditch, so I don't ever have to worry about it. I did work with the quilter for years, I mean like 5 years, and it was kind of when I started pressing open, and she was like, well, I don't really want to do your quilts anymore because you press open and I feel like your quilt's going to come apart. And so I stopped using her. I think she was great. It's just she didn't feel comfortable as a quilter quilting my stuff, and I didn't want to make her, so I just said, okay, well, do I have quilt patterns for king size beds? I'm new to sewing but interested in sewing her quilts. So we do have lots of patterns, and most patterns can be adjusted. And if you go to our website and you search patterns, you can search by size. On the Sweetwater labels to store them, can I take them out of the bag and put them in plastic? Yeah, what I do is mine are in basically a big plastic bag, and I just stuff them in there. And I usually keep the ones in the plastic bag in the front, and those are the ones I use the most because I'm pretty much out. I might increase my subscription because I keep running out. So that is this is Brick House by Fat Quarter Shop, pattern free, only available at Fat Quarter Shop. I hope I see you sewing it. Now we're going to move to Chicken Salad Sew Along. This is designed by Lori Holt of Riley Blake. And if you go to Riley Blake's website, this is a completely free pattern. We are now sold out of the quilt kits. We should have more, couple weeks maybe. But if you want to start this, you can just buy the Fat Quarter Bundle of Cookbook, and that'll give you enough for everything except these backgrounds on the chickens. So this sew along has a lot of aspects to it. So they wrote this for applique. But Lori knows that I love to sew her stuff, and she knows I don't applique, and she also knows that I don't like chickens. And actually, it's not that I don't like them, I'm like scared of them. I'm not even kidding. Like if a chicken got near me, I'd probably start screaming. So she took some blocks from Farm Girl Vintage 1 and Farm Girl Vintage 2, used the same fabrics, and she's showing every Monday on her blog these blocks. So far she has shown 6 applique blocks that are free here and 6 piece blocks from these 2 books. And I'm going to show you what I have made so far. And all I'm doing here is doing exactly what Lori's doing. I'm not changing any of the colors or anything like that. I'm just doing exactly what Lori's doing. And I will probably wait to do the layout when she does hers and just copy what she does. So this is Kettles On from Farm Girl Vintage. And I'll show you the back just so you can see some, and you're going to see that sometimes this needs to be fixed, but sometimes I press open, sometimes I don't. Pie Cherries also from Farm Girl Vintage. This one was fun because it was really easy. Baked with Love, also from Farm Girl Vintage. Fresh Pears from Farm Girl Vintage. This one was also fun because it was easy. And so you can see on this one, I kind of pressed open, but then when I got to the main seam, I didn't press open. Canning Season from Farm Girl Vintage. And then this one was fun because you could chain piece this. So I chain piece that to save time. And then again, part of it pressed open, part of it not. That was probably supposed to be pressed open. And then the last one is Cold Watermelon from Farm Girl Vintage 2. So basically, you're halfway there. Either if you're doing the applique or the piece, you're halfway there. And next Monday, whatever blog she posts, I will piece, and then we'll show it again. If you want to see it before it's in the live stream, you can always follow our social media to see all of our blog progress for that week. Now, on this one, I also worked ahead and pieced all of the finishing, which I have shown you before, but my son Will laid all of this out, and then I sewed it together, numbered it or lettered it, and then that way when we go back to finish it, he'll follow the front, my number, and here, and he'll lay it all out, and then I'll lay my blocks and he'll hand them to me. One thing that I did notice in one of Lori's videos is she mentioned that on her pieced quilt, she's going to use a different binding and a different rickrack. So the kit came with a red fabric. So she said since she's doing her piece in a different binding, I bought that binding. I have it starched, and I used the rickrack she called for in the video called Cottage. Now that video was probably 5 or 6 weeks ago, but now I'm ready. I've already got all this ready for Gina. And then what I decided to do is to go ahead and piece my backing. So I don't think I kept my notes on my backing here. So this is what I did for my backing. Oh good, it's right there. So what I did is, when you saw all those finishing fabrics that I just showed you, some of the fat quarters had, you know, I had little pieces left over from the fat quarters that I cut for the front. So I just cut all that, and I actually ended up using most of it. And what I did is just made a little bar. They're actually, I think they ended up being 4 by 6, which is similar to what was on the front. And I already had the cut strip from the front just left over, so I just chopped them up, put a Sweetwater label in the center. This is the background used on the front, and again, I felt like if I put a fabric right next to it, my border or my, like, I feel like that would just look way too busy. I feel like nobody would ever see my label. So this one, I have an equal amount of fabric on the top and the bottom. And I just do that same diagram. I just hand draw it. And the best thing about this one is all I have to do, because I've done a lot of the work up front. Sometimes I feel like when you're quilting and you have to piece everything at the end, it's good to have your backing done or your binding done or parts of it done, so when you get to the end, it's easier to finish. So this and this sew along started February 14th. Any questions you have, just go to Lori's blog. Her blog is beinmybonnet.com. The fabric collection is Cookbook by Lori Holt. It finishes at 64 by 80. And if you want to start this, just buy the fat quarter bundle of Cookbook to get started. So that is my third sew along. Now we're going to move to another quilt, which is also by Lori. And it's called the Flea Market QAL. So on this one, you do need the book. And here's the book. And what I decided to do is, there are 12 basket blocks in the book. And the quilt on the cover is rather big. It's like a queen/king. And I don't need a quilt that big. So I decided to sew all of the basket blocks and come up with a setting and so Lori came up with this setting. And so I am going to demo on April 8th tips on sewing basket blocks. And I'm going to show tips that day with using triangles on a roll. But I have sewn all of the blocks except block 1. And the reason why is because I'm going to sew it live with you guys. And there's no reason to sew it twice. So all of these blocks that I'm showing you were all pieced using triangles on a roll paper. And one of the questions you guys ask is, how are your blocks so accurate? That is how they're so accurate, is because I use triangles on a roll and have used that for years. And on these, I just did exactly what Lori did in the book. I didn't change any of the colors. If I did change a color, it was on accident. And I'm hoping there's no mistakes in these blocks, so if there are, let me know. These were pretty quick to make, just because in the book we also tell you what triangles on a roll to use. So like at the bottom of the page, it'll tell you what triangles on a roll to use. So it didn't take me any time because I didn't have to think about it. So you're going to want to watch on April 8th. And I thought they kind of matched the little tray. This is a tray by Lori, so I've been storing them here. I'm actually going to buy some more of these trays because I think it's a great way to store the blocks. It's all very matchy-matchy. And a lot of you are sewing along, and I think it's great. And I also think it's great a lot of you are sewing along on the big quilt. So on this, right here, I just pulled some fabrics. I have sewn several quilts. I have sewn several quilts using the Flea Market collection. So this was kind of my last one after the brick house block. So I just pulled all the fabrics I need, just scraps of them, and how much I need for block 1 for our video. And then I cut everything up and put it in my scrap bucket. And since I have my setting, I went ahead and again cut everything for the setting. So I cut my triangles, my outer border, inner border, and squares, accent squares, anything I needed. When I'm making a quilt like this that's on point, you'll see I kind of make notes as I go. For these triangles right here, the corner and the setting triangles, I always cut mine 1 inch bigger, always. Once I assemble, I trim my quilt down. So that's a little trick. And with this, so I'm basically, all I have left is block 1. So since I had time, I decided I would piece the backing. Because obviously, and then get my binding ready. So here's my binding, here's my backing, and let's see, I think this is the center. So this one's kind of big. So this is just right in the center of the quilt. So these were some leftover, in some of the blocks you have some leftover half square triangles. So I just cut them down, put a Sweetwater label, used the same background from the top, and then I just drew a diagram and figured out what I needed for the top and the bottom. And then that answers Joanna's question, what did you do with any extra half square triangles after you made your basket blocks? So they're here, and if I have any others, I'll either just put them in a little bin for later or put them in my scrap bucket or something like that. So I hope you join me in the flea market sew along. I know this one is almost going to be done, but I love this one. And this one you do need the book, but the setting pattern that I just showed you is free, and it's designed by Lori. So the next sew along that I'm going to show you is from Sherry McConnell of A Quilting Life. And I'm going to show you what I'm doing in 2 separate segments. So anything you want to know on this is free on her blog, which is aquiltinglife.com. aquiltinglife.com. She's sharing these free blocks in 2 sizes, 6 inches and 12 inches. All of the blocks are going to have this churn dash border. So this, in no particular order, is January, February, March. I don't have them in the exact order. And what I decided to do was make all of my churn dashes blue, and then the insides make green and tan. So I thought it would be more efficient to go ahead and do all my churn dash pieces. So I did all of those at one time, and it makes it easy. I can just put my blocks together. So I'll be waiting for her April. And this is the 6-inch version. But for some reason that day I thought, you know what, let's make these in 3-inch. So here's some 3-inch versions. And here is my churn dashes for the future. I think I need one more. Oh, I think I have one more at home. And these are tiny, so they're pressed open. And these are just fun to make. And what I'm going to do is I bought this little cube at Michael's. And what I'm going to do is when I'm done, I'm only going to make 6. I can actually only make 5 because I don't really need one for the bottom, but I am. So basically I'm going to put them inside this glass, and then it can rotate, and it's just kind of cute. So you could actually do this and make 6 that are seasonal. So you could do like a Valentine's Day, Christmas, Easter colors, and then turn the box that way each month. So I just thought that would be something different. So that is completely free at A Quilting Life. The next sew along is the Riley Blake Designs Challenge. This one includes 16 10-inch blocks. It started January 4th, and I'm just going to show you all my blocks. Ends May 17th. There's a new block every Tuesday except the last Tuesday of the month. So you go to Riley Blake Designs to find their patterns, which is RileyBlakeDesigns.com, and there's a section for sew-alongs. And these are my 10-inch blocks. I'm using the Quilt Fair collection by Tasha Noel. And so far, let's see how many have been released. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 10 released so far. And I'm using Tasha Noel fabric. And what I decided to do was, this is the only block that let me see. There's only one block that I'm going to have to fix, this one. So this one I'm actually going to fix because I want all the blocks to have pink, navy, aqua, and red. And this one doesn't have any aqua. So I'm probably going to, this is what I'll do. I don't know what I'll do to make it. I'll probably unpick something and change it out with aqua. Maybe pull 2 of these flying geese out and change them to aqua, and then put it back. So this is my 10-inch version. But I was kind of bored that day because, you know, I have a lot of time on my hands. I'm being sarcastic because I have no time on my hands. I decided to make a 5-inch version just for fun. So I made the 5-inch version in the exact same fabrics, unless I made a mistake, of course. But my goal was to make them exactly the same. And this is my 5-inch version. This one obviously is much easier than something like this. This did take quite a bit of math. So this one's completely free on Riley Blake's website. And then I'm going to move my 10-inch blocks to show you something else I came up with. So obviously I've seen the setting. I can't show you what it is, but I've seen the setting, and I know that there are going to be some 5-inch accent pieces. So when I bought the fabric, I have the panel. I bought the panel. This is the Quilt Fair panel. And I had it starched because I thought, you know, it's too cute to not use. So this one's not starched because I had to buy a second one. The reason I had to buy a second one is I know I need more than what it came out. So what I did is I cut these, anything that had aqua, red, pink, or navy, I cut using a Creative Grids 5.5-inch ruler, and I literally, well, after I starched it, if you put the ruler, and there's some white lines in the center, so there's a white line here and a white line here, if you touch it on these points, then you center that star exactly. So this is a Creative Grids 5.5-inch ruler. I just centered the white lines and cut them all out. So here's all of my little pieces. And then what I'm going to do is this weekend, I'm going to take that panel home, starch, well, actually I'm not going to be home this weekend. I'll probably get home with it Monday. I don't even think I'm going home after work. I think I'll be home Sunday night at midnight. I'm not even kidding. So next time I have a chance, I will starch and then cut these out. But I am going to explain one thing that I'm going to do. Now these, just so you know, these are the yellows and greens that don't match my quilt since I didn't use yellow and green. So what I'm going to do with these, I'm not going to throw them away. I'm going to take them, and if you put a Creative Grids 2.5-inch ruler on top of that center square and cut around it, you can put a 2.5-inch square in your scrap bucket. That's totally original. So that's what I'm going to do with these. Now obviously I could save all of them if I wanted to, but I mean that's what I'm going to do. I think that's the most efficient thing. But in addition to that, one thing I wanted to talk about is, we're going to zoom in a little bit. Okay. Let's see. So, oh, this block is actually 5.5. Let me see another block. Okay, this actually block is 5.5 exactly. Wow, that didn't show my point. My point was, a lot of my blocks aren't 5.5, they're 5 1/8. But I'm going to leave these at 5.5. And what I'll do, when I'm sewing it together, you can see that this is going to be a tiny bit bigger. I'll pin at the end and the beginning, and I don't want to trim these down to like 5 1/8 because, like you saw, some of my blocks are the correct size. And then when I sew, just keep this part on top, and as you go through, pull, and it'll stretch it out and it'll look perfect. So I am going to starch this, and that's kind of my plan on that. Now we're going to move, so this one's completely free. The size options on this is only 10 inches. I just did the 5-inch for fun. The next sew along we're going to move to is Pat Sloan's Sweet Dreams Sew Along. And we're going to tell a little story. Here's a story about a lovely lady. Okay, so the story is, we're going to zoom out. But the story is that, I think this is how the center goes. Like this. It's 3 by 3 in the center. I have lost 3 blocks. So I've lost these 3 blocks because if I hadn't, I'd already have the center put together for you. So I have misplaced 3 blocks, have no idea where they're at. You know, similar to the other day I lost my planner, similar to the other day I lost, you know, I lost Lori's fabric for like 6 months. I lose stuff, guys. So there's 3 blocks. Kevin's going to actually help me try to look for my blocks, but we can't find the blocks. But this is my center. So, and these I did do a lot of pressing open because there's going to be so many seams together. But I'm going to show you in a little bit that my outside blocks, I did not press open. And then she's got a flying geese, no, this is, yeah, flying geese border around the edge. Now this one, I will tell you, when she wrote this, she wrote it as half square triangles. But I made mine flying geese instead because I thought it was quicker. So I have these pieced and ready to attach once I find my blocks. So I got that done, and this is like one of the weeks. It started January 5th, ends May 11th, so it's an 18-week free sew along. She has a printout on her blog. Her website is ilovetomakequilts.com. And then this goes kind of on the top. And I'll piece this together. Now what will happen is if I don't find my blocks, eventually I'll just redo those blocks. Because I obviously have pictures on social media of what I made, so I know that, you know, I can refer to those. So that's kind of the center. But when you get to the outside, and it's kind of hard to show just because I lost my blocks. Once you get to block 12, which was this week, you're going to make 2 blocks a week, and they have sashing in between, unlike the center where all those blocks join. So these went really fast because I did not press open. Well, I mean, I guess I did on the flying geese. I mean, on the half square triangles. But when I have sashing between blocks, I'm not going to press open. So I'm hoping to be able to find my blocks. And so blocks 12 through 18, you make 2 times. Now she's making hers where her fabric, she's inverting the dark and the lights. But instead of doing that, I'm just kind of rearranging my fabric. So I'm doing my fabric placement a little bit different than hers, which is okay. So this is free. Visit Pat Sloan and you will see it. And this fabric right here is Cookbook by Lori Holt, and I just used 4 prints. So this one's kind of a red, white, and blue. And the reason I did that is since I was making the chicken salad quilt that I showed you, that uses the whole collection. And if I ever use the collection twice, I want one of my, I want my quilts to stand alone and not look different. So this is why I did this one red, white, and blue, so that it would stand apart from chicken salad. My next sew along is hosted by Moda and designed by Susan Aki. And on Moda's site, there are 2 free patterns to make the branching out blocks, 8 inches and 6.5. I'm making all of mine 8 inches. And what I did is I just put some cheat notes here so that I know what to cut. And what my goal is on this is 12 blocks a month. So, okay, here it goes. These 2. So what you'll see is I cut some strips from a layer cake and half go on one side here, and then I reverse it here. And then when I do the layout for the quilt, these 2, I will have a stack of some that go at the top and a stack of some that go at the bottom so the fabrics don't touch. And I'm making, let's see. So I've made 24 blocks so far. No, I've made 24 as of February. Then Monday night I made 12 more, so I've made 36 blocks. I have enough fabric cut, starched, and ready to go of fig tree greens to get to 64. Now I might stop there, or I might just wait, and as Fig Tree releases new collections, just make more blocks and then get to a larger quilt. So I haven't decided. I'll kind of know once I get further along what I want to do. This background right here, I used 20412-12, and all of the greens are from my stash, except I went on eBay and Etsy and bought some greens I didn't have. And then this is a brown stitched, so I'm also using stitched in another collection. So these are the original 24. And then here are my 12 new ones. And I'm keeping the 2 kind of together so that when I lay them out, I can have a different stack. This one's been a lot of fun. But I think doing, a couple at a time is better than doing one at a time. And what I'm doing here, let's see. You can see when you're looking at my block, since it is 6.5 inch finished, this is 7 inches. And if I put my Creative Grids ruler on there, it's exactly 7 inches. Not one speck bigger, not one speck smaller. And what I did to make that happen is all of the whites. I cut, I think, yeah, 1/2 inch bigger or 1/4 inch, one of the two. I can't remember if I did 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch. I cut these bigger. I cut the greens the exact size, and when I made this, I didn't trim it to 3 inches. I added it, and so it's really big, and then I can trim it down because I've got plenty of the white to trim down. So if I compare some, they're not exactly the same. Well, maybe they are. No, they are, look pretty the same. But that's how I made those exact. And I like this one because it's very different than anything I've done before. And I've never done a green quilt, if you want to know the truth. Green is my least favorite color, but somehow I keep finding green everywhere, even though I say, I don't like green. I obviously do. So this one's been fun. And then here, right here on this board, these are my leftover strips. So when I said I have enough to make 38 more, they're in sections of 10. So I basically took a layer cake and cut it into 4 strips of, let's see what they are, 1.5 inch wide. And then I cut them down. So these are just ready to go. And when I try to pair them together, what I will try to do, like I wouldn't put these two together because it's 2 small prints together. So I wouldn't want 2 small prints together. I wouldn't put these together because you've got no variance, I guess, in patterns. So when you look at my blocks, I try to do a lighter color and a darker color and a busy print and an unbusy print, so that when you look at the trees, you can see kind of, you can actually see the tree forming. I feel like if you had everything too similar together, that your trees might get a little lost. So we didn't want our forest trees to get lost. And I was able to make 12 blocks in about maybe 3 hours. And I kind of chain piece them. Now what's left over at this point is when I made my stumps for the trees, I cut all of my stitched brown and it's all facing up. And then these right here are left over from when I cut my layer cake. So some pieces I have are tiny, some pieces are big, and I'm hoping at the end that I can either, I'm gonna do something with these. I don't know what, but I do know that I have a 1.5 inch scrap bin that I can, cut them into squares and put them there. But I'm thinking somehow on the back of the quilt, these strips will be incorporated just, to keep that variety going. And then these are just my leftover backgrounds that I've cut and my leftover squares. Now when I make this, my whites are way bigger than they're supposed to be because I don't trim them down until I do that final cut. So that is Branching Out, hosted by Moda. Very detailed blog post on Moda with a finishing layout, completely free, designed by Susan Aki. And now that I've shown you all of my sew-alongs, I thought it would be fun to show you and talk about our 2022 Sew Down Challenge. So in January, I started with a brand new cone of Aurifil color 2000, and it's March 25th. And I've used way more than half. So I bet this will last me through the end of May, but not much further. So it's great that I have this one now because I'll take it home and then I'll be ready to go. It was funny because I had Kevin bring all my stuff to work and he was like, "Why are you taking this cone to work?" And I was like, "I'll just take it, it's fine." So yeah, so hopefully when I get back home though, I know what I'm gonna do is I'll start sewing. There'll be no thread in the machine, which is totally what I would do. So those are all my sew-alongs. But now I want to share with you some other things. Pat Sloan is hosting a fundraiser for Ukraine. Kevin and I have made a donation to the charity that Pat Sloan chose. And she is giving away this block for free on her website, which is ilovetomakequilts.com. She does also have a Facebook group. You can download her free pattern and make the block or one of the quilts to be donated. All the information is on her website, and the proceeds go to the UNICEF campaign working with children and families affected by the violence in Ukraine. And Kevin and I donated to that on behalf of Fat Quarter Shop. So Kate made this block, and she used an essential dot, which is color 37, and she used 20708-36, which is my favorite white, and then she did something really fun. This looks like a Bella Solid, right? It's a grunge. It's the wrong side of the grunge. So that's a creative way to use the fabric in a different way. And this is color 300 of grunge. And we have gotten a lot of requests to put together a Fat Quarter bundle with yellows and blues. So we did that yesterday. And this is called Sunflower Skies. And this bundle would work great to make this. I do know that Gudrun at GE Designs is also doing a benefit for Ukraine. So definitely check that out. So here's the yellows. And here's the blues. And we just tried to pick a variety of yellows. So you'll see there's light, dark, medium, different designers. So if you can, donate to her charity, or make blocks to donate, or makes quilts to donate. So that is Quilters Stand for Ukraine by Pat Sloan. The next thing I wanted to show you is our jelly rolls, or jelly sizzle. I always want to call it jelly roll sizzle. And we'll show you a pop-up of that. This is a shortcut quilt that we released, and really cute. And we thought after we released it, we should show some fun quilts made by some of our friends. So this is the original. Oh, sorry, he's got the wrong, okay, sorry. This is the original. I was like, what? Okay, so I've got it all mixed up. So this is Jelly Roll Sizzle, sorry. So I'm gonna show it to you. This is the original. Kenna pieced it. Abby Latimer quilted it. The fabric is Newport by Minnick and Simpson. And here it is up close. And now I'll show you the backing. Top camera. Sorry. So this is also Newport. So this is the original that we used in the video. And the video just came out, so, and I have seen several of you make it, so that's awesome. So this is our original. The next one is pieced by Pat Sloan. And then I'll show it to you on the table. Pat Sloan pieced this. Pat Sloan quilted it. Her name is Quilter Pat Sloan on Instagram. The fabric she used is Coffee Chalk by Janet Wickerfrisch for Riley Blake. And I want to show you what she does. Oh, okay, I said I want to show you what she does on the corner. How did I pick the wrong corner? Here it is. So, what she does is she puts a little piece of muslin in here. She always puts her email and the information on the quilt. And that's something that you'll always see on a Pat Sloan quilt. Okay, the next one is by Melissa Corey. Okay, now this one is larger. This one, she used 2 junior jelly rolls of modern background, more paper, and then for the background fabrics, and then the reds are from her stash, and then this is probably a Bella Solid. So this one she just made more blocks, added more blocks, and then made it bigger. And the back, you can see the quilting, and this is modern background, more paper. So not only can you change the quilt by changing the colors for the look, you can also change it by making it bigger or smaller. So this is Melissa Corey's, and she pieced it and quilted it, and this is her first one. Her second quilt is here, and she made this one smaller. This is Folktale by Layla Boutique. She pieced and quilted it. You can find her on Instagram at Happy Quilting MC. And I wanted to show you one thing. She puts these little tags. You can get these tags made. She puts this in her binding, which is awesome. And you can find these on like Etsy or eBay, probably Etsy. And you can't tell, but this is how you use leftover backings, fabrics, when you don't have a full piece. I'll try to show you. So she's got a seam here, a seam here, and a seam here. And that's how you save fabric. Nobody would ever know unless I told you. But that's how you can, not have to buy more fabric. I'll show you the front again. Folktale, fabric is Moda, designer is Layla Boutique. Another thing when you're looking at this quilt is the pinwheels. We use you can use either a lighter or a darker print, and based on, or medium too, but based on what you put here, it's either gonna show more, show less, or blend in. And so you can change. It's a free pattern. The Shortcut Quilts are all free. You can download the free pattern at fatquartershop.com. You can watch the video, and you can always change it by adding or subtracting blocks for the size, change the fabric, or change your pinwheels. The next quilt I'm showing you is by Michelle Smith at the Patchwork Loft on Instagram. This fabric is Home Sweet Holidays by Deb Strain. And you can see the pinwheels really pop. And if you did white, they might really pop also. And you can find her on Instagram at the Patchwork Loft. The fabric is Home Sweet Holidays by Deb Strain. She quilted this herself, and she did straight line quilting. It looks really good. And that's the front. And then the back, she used the same color thread. So when you're quilting, you can do different colors on the top and the back. You want to be careful if you do that, because if you, for example, used a red thread on the bottom and a white thread on top, your red might pull up to your white, or vice versa, but it kind of depends on your tension and how you quilt. And anytime you're making a quilt, you should test out on a test piece of fabric to get your stitch length the way you want it before you keep going. The next quilt is by Marissa Wilhelmi. This one's kind of big. I want to show you the top of the back. And what she did is she used some leftover strips from the front on the back. This fabric collection is called Stay Gold by Melody Miller. It's a Ruby Star Society fabric. The back is speckled by Rashida Coleman Hale, Ruby Star Society. It's a basic. And you'll see some solids in here. The solids are Tula Pink design roll. So Tula has her own solids. They're just called Tula Pink solids. And so she took a design roll and added that. And she threw in a couple of Bella solids just for variety and made it bigger. So this is Jelly Sizzle. And the image we showed you earlier, we'll not show you again. It was a Jolly Bar Jump. And if you want to make that, that video is from 2021. The next thing I want to remind you is this quilt is being auctioned right now on eBay. It's the quilt that I made, and it has my label in here. And we're auctioning this off, and we're hoping to raise a little bit more money than what we're at right now. So please go bid on this quilt. You can also bid on my cross stitch. And then this one, you know, it has my label, has my name in it, and the cross stitch is signed. So there's that. And then the next thing is we're going to talk about a sale that we're having right now on quilt kits. So for 1 week only, we're sharing savings on some of our favorite quilts, and they're up to 50% off. So Stellar features Kitty Corn by Urban Chicks, and that is really fun, really cute. It looks way better in person. The next one is Pining for You. It is the Daydreamer collection by Tula Pink. And one thing to think about when you are looking, when a kit is on sale, what if you don't like the pattern? Okay, well, it's on sale, so you can just buy it, throw the pattern away, or use it for something else, and then just use the fabric for a different pattern because it's on sale. You're already getting the value. So if you don't necessarily like the pattern, you can always use it for something else. The next two are by Lori, Flea Market Windows, and this one uses her seed ruler. The next one is the Flea Market Table Runner, and that one also uses the seed runner. And then the next one is Lovey Dovey, and I'm going to show you a small version of that in a second because it's so cute. That one's awesome. If I was going to buy any of them, I'd buy that one. The next one is a rainbow quilt. It's called Polychromatic. It is by Elizabeth Hartman. And so if you're somebody who loves solids or kind of that monochromatic look, but you don't like the design, you can buy the kit and just not use the pattern. And that's one thing just to think of when you're shopping. And then Autumn Wonderland is a sew-along that Pat Sloan did with one of the fig tree patterns. And then here, for Lovey Dovey, here is an up-close picture of the block that's in that quilt. We have a video on our YouTube channel directly from Vanessa giving tips on how to make this block. And she was so nice. She left me this as a gift. It says handmade by Layla Boutique, and it sits in my office. So can't miss out on that kit. The next thing I want to show you is just some new things that we have. And I'm going to have a larger section of the what's new next week. But I wanted to show you oops, this was the pink version that we used to have, so this is now sold out. This is the blue version, and this is how they look together. So she really, when Lori designs these, we do a one-time run on them, meaning we print them one time because they're so expensive to make. And so this was, one of these was the original. This is how they look. They look great together. These two are now discontinued. But I wanted to show you this. This is her new Daisy Bee's Knees book stand. And you can, it really works great for her books. So her small books or her large books, you can put it next to you when you're cross stitching, and it has a deep enough area here to hold her really thick books or some of her notions. So I just want to show that to you. This has been out for a couple weeks. I just haven't had a chance to show you. But I did want to let you know that yesterday this arrived. This is Bee Plaids. So Riley Blake put together 1-yard bundles, and they did a red version and a teal version, and these have the backgrounds kind of scattered within them. So if you want the whole collection in 1-yard cuts, Riley Blake made that easy by cutting it for us. But if you don't want such a big piece, we are going to have some other pre-cuts like fat quarter bundles, roly-polies, and they're going to be available next week. They just haven't arrived to us from Riley Blake yet. So these are the 1-yard bundles. And the yardage is also online. And then at Fat Quarter Shop, we cut our own half-yard bundles. Now, the half-yard bundle, sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm about to kill myself over here. Okay, the 1-yard bundles, these are the 1-yard bundles. This is our half-yard bundle. So this, you'll notice, has all the backgrounds in it. This one only has 2 because we're selling a separate half-yard bundle. Sorry, y'all just laugh with us. These are Bee Plaid's background half-yard bundle, because the reason I kept these out and made them separate is I know people are going to buy this over and over and over, and they might buy this only once. So if you want a half-yard bundle of the whole collection, you buy the Bee Plaid's half-yard bundle and the Bee Plaid's background half-yard bundle. This is what I'm going to use. So whenever I work with any of Lori's fabrics, and I'm going to actually show you what I do. I always buy a half-yard bundle. That's what I start with. And what I'm going to do is take this home. On the top, I'm going to cut them into 2 fat quarters. I'm going to fold 1 tower and keep it unstarched and just keep it to the side. And then I'm going to starch the other half. And I will make several quilts out of that half-yard, and then the other part, if I need it, it's there. I can pull it. If I don't need it, I don't need it. And then if you don't want a full half-yard of the backgrounds, here are the backgrounds. And this is nice because you can see them. We'll zoom in a little bit. There's yellow, blue, red, gray stars. And then some ditzy prints. So definitely, and then they're in here too. And all the other pre-cuts will be online early next week. So that was a lot. So now I'm going to answer all the questions you have. So if you have any questions and you haven't thrown it in there, go ahead and throw them in there. Sometimes I get comments that I end the show abruptly, but I don't mean to. I just kind of come and show you what I have, and if I don't have any more questions, I'm just done. So I only have a couple questions. Peggy Sue asks, is it difficult for quilters to keep the back straight that is pieced? You know, probably. I haven't quilted at home in a long time. I think with long arms, it's easy because you have the clamps and that keeps it straight. I think it's all experience too. And then the shortcut quilts that I showed you today, some are the same size, and then some of the designers made them bigger or smaller based on, you know, what worked for them and to use all the fabric they had. Oh, and then Pat Sloan says she has the pinwheel border at her website today. So you'll want to check that out. Crafting a Plan Life said, can I show the untripped block for the trees for a visual of how you constructed the blocks? I did show that actually in 3 weeks ago. So I actually showed it, so you can go back to a couple of weeks ago. Toothrough says, Toothrough, I don't know how to say your name. I know she does now, but for instance, on the Charm Pack Cherry, she just says spray starch after putting it together. I was wondering how that would change now. So now, it depends, because a shortcut quilt, if you need that entire pre-cut, you cannot starch because it will shrink down. I starch everything. So if I have a Charm Pack quilt that I need to make, I'm going to buy a layer cake and waste and leave all those leftover fabrics for my scrap buckets. And the upcoming book by Lori Holtz, Scrappiness is Happiness, has a ton of detail on the scrap system that she uses, because that's what I use, because I copy everything she does. But what I do now is I starch everything ahead of time, and then I don't use starch again unless I have some kind of crease or something that I need to get out. What is a ditzy print? Why is it called that? Oh, that's just like a sales rep term. It's just like, you could Google that. It's just like a little ditzy, like little small print. I think Kimberly's starch talk is starting to brainwash me. I found myself reaching for the starch the other day. That's so funny. I actually use so much starch. I only have like 4 cans left. And I probably had 20 a week ago. And Gwenna asks, how many labels do you get each month with the label subscription? You either get 1 big one or 2 smaller ones. What is the SKU for the dot background on the Sherry McConnell blocks? So for the Sherry McConnell blocks, I'll look in my book, but it is from the Flower Pot collection, and I will look. Oh, in my book. My blue book. Oh, wait, here it is. I have it right here. Okay, so let me show the block so I can show her. So make sure I'm answering the question right. Let's see. So this dot right here, 5163-11. And if you wanted to know on the little tiny one, those are all the tiny ones that I made that are 5 inches or 3 inches. Those are all Beyond Bella that are not coming out until the end of May. Karen says, what is the backing and background of Lori Holt's basket quilt? The background is 9940 pewter. The backing is 10221 sea glass, and that's also all the setting fabrics. Do you recommend a starch stand? I have 2 different, the clothing rack dryers or something like that. They're from Amazon, and that's what I use. To dry them, I lay it over the little rod. Anita says she's participating in the Moda Blockheads for the first time. If I starch the layer cakes, I'll have enough for the blocks. I mean, I'm hoping you will. I mean, there might be a block that has a really big print that might be an exception, but I starched all the layer cakes. And I kind of start with what I have, like, you know, a sample yardage. We have a layer cake, and a sample yardage, I have those leftover Moda things. And then if I have to buy as I go, I will. But starching on that one should be fine. Shelly Thomas is new to quilting and started with a Stronger Together. I want to get better, but being a registered nurse, I don't have much time. Any suggestions? I say just do like a certain, like make sure you do like 2 hours a week or something. Because really, there were years that I didn't quilt. When I had my babies, like I didn't quilt for years. I didn't do anything for years, and then I had to pick it back up. So, and now, I mean, now it's just kind of part of my job. So I'm lucky in that I can I'm lucky in that on Sundays I can spend 13 hours working straight with no lunch. That's kind of what I end up doing. But you just kind of fit it in as you can. But I think you'll get better just with time. I think I was horrible at first. I used to take classes and I was horrible. Oh, this is a great question. Peggy Sue. I like to hang my quilts. Is there a way to keep them from fading due to sunlight? No. So here at Fat Quarter Shop, we have about 6 or 7 quilts on the wall that are completely faded. And I'm kind of okay with that. I have some at home that'll eventually be faded. And I'm kind of okay with it because I make so many quilts. I mean, I can just replace it out. But I don't think there's a way to keep it unless you put some kind of UV something on your walls or windows. But I don't really know. Mine just fade. I'm gonna announce my super chats, new members, and then I'm gonna announce our giveaway at the very our like contest at the end. So thank you to Marty Klein for her super chat. Seven and the Littlest Mew, Christabel, and Valeria Bauer. Valeria Bauer put a little thing that said #1 fan. She's definitely my #1 fan. Our new members, Shelly Thomas, So Becca, Alicia Best, Frances Cox, and Rebecca Hopley. So thank you to all of you. And I don't know if you noticed, you probably didn't notice, but we hit 300,000 subscribers last week. So from today through next Thursday, March 31st, 2022 at midnight, we are having a contest. The link is below. It's a raffle copter contest. We're giving away 3 different $100 gift certificates. So just check that link, and the more actions you complete, the more chances you have to win. I think you can win. You can enter up to 3 times, and then we're going to notify our winners April 1st via email. So please enter. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel, and I will be back next Friday, and I will be demoing the Heartfelt Block 3 heart. So that'll be awesome. I'll get to sew with you next Friday, and I'll see you then.